Yep, just waiting for people to join in.
Okay. Y'all can get on our page now. Oh, that doesn't help if they're not on it, does it?
Candace Dwayne Hudson is live now in the Voices of Reform.
Uh,
We got people logging in.
yeah. We're just going to wait for a few more people. And our guest tonight, Stephen Bobo.
Janine said, hey, Candy and James.
Oh, yeah. Hi. Whatever your name is, I can't see it.
Janine.
Oh, Janine. Okay. Oh. I'm the old one, remember? Some people said that. Let's see, which one is this here?
Samantha said, hey. These
Hi.
are all prison wives out of my group.
I'm starting
scared of us.
Yeah, I'm starting a prison guys group.
Fair Treatment, Reform, and Reentry says hello.
Yeah, I'm starting a group just for men.
What are you going to call it?
Men cuties. And we're going to sit in and talk about all the women.
Tammy says, hi, Jimmy and Candy. Stephanie Drew said, hey, the race is still on.
Well, turn your TV off because we are on. That's what counts.
Janine, he forgets his own name. Don't feel offended.
No, my name is Jim, James, or Jimmy. All three. That means I got 3 pages. So you could take a pick.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to say the other things I've been called.
So, before we get started, we're hoping that that Stephen
Bobo
logs in here. So before we get started, we'll introduce ourselves. I'm Candace Hudson, and
I'm James Cronenberger.
we our organization is Fair Treatment, Reform, and Reentry. Oh, Steve just got on.
Steve, you're late by a minute.
And we want to go through some of our upcoming events, which is the first one is Legislative Day, and this is the one that we've been working on. Jennifer Ware says hi, James.
Hey, Jennifer.
This is the one that we have been working on. Actually, Beverly Seymour has been working on, but we will be introducing it on Thursday, the 21st. For those of you that are in the Ohio area, we will be at the State House at 12:30 at the coffee shop, which is in the back of the building to the right.
To the right, you're past the gift shop on the left.
Yes.
Stephen, we're going to be on it. We're inviting you on in a minute.
Melissa said hi, James and Candace.
Hi, Melissa.
Then the next thing we have is the protest in Cleveland, April 26th, 11 a.m. at the Justice Center. Rebecca Jones said, hey, I finally am free to tune in. Well, we're glad you're here. So the next one is the protest. It's the nationwide protest, correct?
Right. Yes.
And here in Ohio, we will be at the State House May 17th at 11 a.m.
Okay. For you that are out of the state, please organize one in your state and meet at your state house. If you don't have a parole board, it could be on unfair conditions, unfair treatment of inmates, or what else is happening in your state.
Mm-hmm. And protests are a lot of fun. You have to experience it at least one time. Preferably more, but at least one.
Right.
And then the next thing we have would be August 3rd is our conference, Transforming Lives for Reentry. We have the date and the place. We're just getting everything together for right now. So tonight we are going to be talking about drugs in the prison system, and we will be bringing in Stephen Bobo here in just a second. We realize that this is a controversial topic, and we are open for a healthy debate or discussion. However, we like to keep it friendly and hope that everybody can discuss and debate nicely. And please feel free to ask any questions or comments or anything like that. And for anybody that is watching that may not be in the group, you actually have to be a member of the group to comment or interact with us.
Right, and you could join our group at any time.
Yes.
And those that are out of state, you had the same problems in your prison with the drugs in there. Don't think it's just an Ohio problem.
Yes, this is nationwide. So let me get on here so I can see. All right.
Okay, click like, Stephen. I mean, not click like, but accept the the invite to be on. Stephen, are you there? Must be taking some time. I know you live way over there in North Carolina, but...
Hey, Jeff. Jeff Johnson is
Hi, Jeff.
just logged on.
He did it the wrong way. You have to try again with him.
Oh, here he goes.
If he's got bad weather out there, he may not be able to.
I just accepted your request, Steve. Hey, Bobby. We're trying to connect. We're trying to connect with Steve right now.
Steve, if you use your phone, it would be a lot easier. I don't know if you're using a desktop or not. But on the phone is the one that most people connect live to. No, he's gone again. You might have to try to add him again.
Oh, whoops.
Yeah, there's Stephen Bobo again. He was up there.
All right. We're going to try this one more time. I'm approving your request.
Are you accepting it, Stephen? He might have problems with his connection.
Jeff said he was told it's because he had his Wi-Fi on. I would think it would work better if you had your Wi-Fi on, actually.
Yeah, and we don't know why that happens.
He keeps declining it.
Yeah, Stephen, you keep declining.
You keep declining it. It's sending us a message back saying you're declining our request.
Send us a request, Stephen. Let's try it again. If it doesn't work, we just got to go on. Okay. Stephen, send us a request.
He said, I want in.
Who?
Hey, Heather. Steve.
We'll try it one more time, Stephen.
He said, I want in. You get, we keep sending you requests, but you're denying them.
Don't be scared. We ain't going to be too hard.
All right.
Now accept it this time. Hi, Dawn. I think that's what your name is.
Christy said hi. Christy Wilson.
It's not going to work with Stephen. Stephen, you have to accept it.
Hey, Heather. That's Steve.
Don't be scared. We ain't going to be too hard. But yes, we will. Steve, are you going to accept it? Well, this is the last try. No, he declined it again.
Okay.
We got
So
to
we'll
go
just continue on. You probably know a little bit more about this topic than I do.
Somewhat. I got out January 24th, 2011. It was bad then, but it's getting a lot worse now. We've had people die of fentanyl overdose in prison as well as the county jail. This is how it starts. An inmate becomes friends with a CO or corrections officer, as some of you may call, and they say, well, go to my mom's house, she'll give you $1,000, bring in this or that for it. And that's how the drugs are getting in. Family members might be able to sneak in a Suboxone by passing over through kissing. And years ago, they used to be able to sneak in balloons, as we probably know where the balloons went to get in. I don't have to go in that detail. But recently, we've had several officers in Ohio caught for bringing dope in, and they're supposed to charge them with an outside case. But I've noticed the habit. What happens is, you could try to see one more time. What happens is they just basically get transferred to a different institution. And the state will say, oh, they got fired, prosecuted, but then you get transferred to a different camp and you see that officer working there. It happened to a lady up at Grafton. Well, she brought stuff in. I think it was marijuana. So they walked her out, the State Highway Patrol. Then 2 months later, I had a disciplinary move to Lorain, and she was over there working in recreation. So they, and I don't know why officers bring it in when they make decent money and great benefits. They're taking a chance of losing their jobs and going to prison. Mm-hmm. As that's what happened to Stephen. And he was going to share his testimony with us. And I wish
It says we're adding him.
Right. Yeah, Stephen says we're adding you, so add something.
It says no answer.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what's happening, Steve, but we tried to add you again and it said no answer this time. So we just have to keep going. Now, those that are in different states, if you want to share some of your concerns or what's happening in your prisons without drugs, we'd like to hear that as well. But I'm pretty certain you have just as much problems in your institutions as we do in Ohio. And now the president was talking about giving the death penalty to drug dealers, and that would include corrections officers, I guess.
He was saying that fentanyl was going to go on the list.
Oh, fentanyl, okay.
That was going to go on the list as one of the things for to be considered for the death penalty.
Right. And the sad thing is, people go through the county jail into the prison system. They get high the whole time they're there. They come out high instead of taking that time to clean up. If an addict's around dope, what happens? They use. And when you have it inside the prison, they're pretty much paid whatever it wants. People have to check in protective custody because they owe so much money on it to the dope man. Uh-huh. And everybody pretty much knows who the dope man is, but the staff hasn't been able to catch them or the officers bringing it in. We've suggested that periodically they bring the dogs where the officers come in, But the problem is they tell the officers when they're going to do the shakedowns.
Debbie Gibney said that she's trying to comment.
That's
I
'cause
just
she wants
saw
to
it
come
come
live.
up on your screen.
Right.
Is she part of the?
She's her son passed away in the county jail
Yeah,
from fentanyl.
but is she part of the group? You can't comment unless you're an
No,
actual
I don't
member
think
of the
she
group.
is. I don't think she is.
Steve said he's going to try to shut down and come back in.
Okay.
I know that it is the COs are bringing it in, and that is one of the biggest issues that we're having here in Ohio. Sorry, we have a cat that just jumped up.
Yeah.
It's messing us all up.
Paul, can you get the cat?
Sorry,
Yeah.
guys. And the way that it was being smuggled in was two times it got caught. One was underneath the bill of a hat. They found it on a corrections officer. And another time was underneath the bun of their food. So they had it in a plastic wrap, but then had it under the bun. He's looking for his cat.
Yeah. Yeah. My roommate's trying to get our cat off here.
So there were several people just charged in New Jersey for murder,
Come here, Mars. Come
for
on, buddy. Come on.
giving drugs to people,
Come on,
and
you
they
gotta-
OD'd.
You gotta get your butt down here. Come on. Mars, you're gonna scratch me. Come on. Stay off the table. You know that.
That cat needs to be in prison.
Well, they've already had their treats, and I know they ain't gonna come up here for that.
Steven's going to try to come back in. So,
He's logging out and trying to come back in.
but we'd like to get some feedback from some of you
Come on, let's go.
because this is a very serious. This is a very serious
Allison
situation.
said they also put it in their flashlights, and I actually have heard that.
They have in Ohio.
Mars.
Being in the bill of the hats was really the big thing for a while, but all they did is outsmart the staff. And then when the staff tells these officers when they're gonna have a shakedown for staff, they don't bring it in that day. You know, that's one thing they need to stop doing is notifying them. They don't notify the inmates when they do.
We got some stuff coming in. Stephanie Drew said, I know many times I've been on the phone and he's told me how much it smells when the guys are smoking it right on the lot. Samantha said, I've seen them check the COs here in VA at my fiance's facility anyway, and they barely even check them. They pretty much just let them go on through. But blame is on the vendors doing so. And visitation, they only have chocolate candy in the vending machines, and we used to have sandwiches and all.
That's another one we need to talk about. The food
Allison
and
said they
things.
don't tell staff when the shakedowns are.
No, they don't in Ohio neither. Well, they do in Ohio, and they do in most states. That's part of the problem why they can't catch them. I had a couple of staff members tell me that they know exactly when they're shaking them down. That was at Mansfield. That an officer told me that.
Dawn Marie said they also put it in their butt to bring it in.
Who?
Not trying to be funny, but,
Yeah, but-
I mean that's true though.
Yeah, well, that's
That's
how,
one of the biggest.
That's how inmates used to do it. They'd bring, the wife would pass a balloon off to them, and they'd go to the bathroom and do it. And the bad thing is, the inmates still would smoke it.
I was on visit one time, and there was a girl that came in, and you could tell that she was high or whatever. And they actually allowed her to go back out to her car. After she was in the visiting room, they allowed her to go back out. This wasn't, before she got checked in or anything. She was already. We gotta move she was already in the visiting room and they allowed her to go back out. And what ended up happening was she must have went out to the car and got something, came back in, and then it wasn't but maybe 20 minutes later, all of a sudden the visiting room was just swarming with I don't know what you would call it, investigation team or whatever, because the guy, they ended their visit and she left and he went back to get shook down and ended up, he OD'd in the hallway.
Right. Well, let me tell you a story what just happened, if you're through, or
Yeah.
up at Madison Correctional, we had a guy that got caught with a balloon, an inmate. And they took her away. They took the lady out in handcuffs. And then, you know, I'm not sure what happened, but a month later he got a parole. You know, that's a sign of a tattletailer.
Yeah.
But he ended up getting a parole. You know, and he brought, he had a balloon on him and the officers took it. So we don't know exactly what happened there, but, you know, that happens a few times. But usually those that don't get in trouble and get a parole are usually bad news to the other inmates. And the one you were talking about was at FMC, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was FMC.
Okay.
Steven said it was so easy to bring in drugs. I bet it is, because I've seen when they, well, actually, when we were at FMC, you basically just walked in. I never had to show my ID. Because I was there every week. But they even showed me, the one CO showed me how to get through the metal detector without it going off if I had, if I beeped. She backed me back through the metal detector and told me to hold the necklace I had on, or hold my earrings or whatever, hold the buckles on my boots when I walked through, because they just didn't want to deal with wanding me or whatever.
They did that at Richland when we went in. I just put my hand over my belt and I didn't even take my watch off.
Yeah. And then, so they taught me how to get, they taught me how to get through.
So now she's a criminal now.
So now I can get through any metal detector.
Right. Another thing, it's not just drugs being brought in. Most states are non-smoking. They're bringing cigarettes in. The bags of tobacco, like the Bugler, is going for $700. So inmates will buy that. You know, $10 for one roll up. It's like $7 for a pin-sized joint.
I'm not sure which states are the ones that have the full body scans.
I think California is one. I think they were the first state.
And to show anything that you have on you. But how do you guys feel about that? The full body scans. Do you think that everybody should do that? And I've heard that even the ones that are doing it, the staff doesn't have to go through them. Just the visitors or outside vendors, but not necessarily the staff.
And if they would have the staff do it, there goes most of the drugs that are coming in. I know Franklin County Jail, thanks to the Gibneys, is doing scanning at the workhouse part, but the main jail downtown Columbus, they're not doing it.
Steve said I had people to throw it over the fence at night and I would grab it as a yard dog and pass it out.
Hey, Stephen, explain to people what a yard dog is, and I'll do it out here. It's not really the four-legged dogs. Well, we did call them the four-legged dogs, but they are officers that work the yard and harass inmates to a point of them snapping for the most part. Stephen, I don't think you were that way, though, I think you might have been halfway decent. But they're the ones that work the yard.
The staff absolutely should do it. I agree. Everybody, if they're going to have full body scanning, everybody needs to go through it. But I believe that Stephen was in Madison.
Yes.
And we were out in Madison for many years. Well, that was back I guess it would have been across the street at London when they were still doing the farming, but you said they don't do that anymore?
No, I think that was at London.
Yeah.
Yeah. The state stopped all the farms.
Did they?
Yeah.
But that's how, like, we would get tennis shoes and things like that because, I mean, it wasn't ever any drugs or anything, but it was like dirty magazines or tennis shoes or whatever. Throw them out there in the dishes.
Well, I tell you this: if they legalized marijuana inside the system, you wouldn't have no fights. You know.
That and conjugal visits, I'm all for that.
Well, I'm for it if the person's married, not just calling a prostitute on the phone to meet you.
Well,
So, Ohio won't do that though. They're too conservative.
Steve said he was there when the juvie got killed on the closed side. Stormy said, did you all see about the mom and daughter who got caught using a drone to get stuff in? Didn't that happen a
Mansfield.
few years ago?
Mansfield and Lake Erie, they flew the drone
She's
right
not
above.
in Ohio.
Huh?
She's not in Ohio.
Right.
I don't know if that's where she's talking about.
It happens in other states. There was something on the news, national news about it, and I forget if it was Tennessee. But it was happening, and that does happen quite a bit. Some of the drones are actually flown in through staff members of that prison.
Oh, wow. And they quit all that. Don Marie said officers used to tell me what day we got stripped coming in and when we weren't, so I could bring weed in. Some smoked with me.
Who is that?
Don Marie.
Dawn? I think she was at ORW, if that's the same one. I'm not sure. But yeah, I mean, the dope doesn't discriminate. It's in our whole system nationwide. It's in the federal prisons, along with the heavy drug dealers.
So, Stephen, let's ask this question. Why do you think that a lot of the COs were bringing it in? Was it because of the money, or what was the reason?
Because we know that staff members make decent money and they have great benefits. But I also know some people get so money hungry when they find out what they can make.
Well, one of the admins that used to be in my group, she actually showed us a video that was sent to her by her brother, that she showed us privately, actually, and where the men were high on K2, also known as wet, and something else.
And what that is, let's explain what it is. It is a cigarette dipped in PCP and embalming fluid.
It's like synthetic weed, isn't it?
Yeah, but very deadly.
And these guys were running around naked, rolling around on the ground. It was a horrible, horrible sight to see.
Yeah, and then on New Year's Eve, half the inmates are drunk from hooch. That's one thing we haven't really covered. Hooch is kind of a unique thing. You drink it and you almost die afterwards. But what they do is they use a big trash bag. They put it in a trash can. They put the hooch inside there. The hooch is in bottles, or they might even put it just in a trash bag and seal it up. But what they do is every day they move it around from trash can to trash can when the trash guy is emptying the trash. And it takes about 90 days to really ferment. They can use tomatoes, potatoes, any bread for the yeast. And it tastes really bad, but it sure gives you a high.
Steve said that he did it for the money and control. Because they, one of the things, a lot of you know that my husband was attacked, but that was one of the things that we were being told, is that it was a CO that was upset with my husband and paid someone to do it. with drugs, actually. Is what we were
And
told.
that happens a lot. I've seen an officer put a shank in somebody's box, locker box, and then they shake them down. They put the inmate in the hole. They put dope in the hole in the locker boxes because they can open up any locker box just like inmates can open up the neighbors just by kicking it open.
You're right, Chrissy. They don't care. They don't care whether those inmates live or die. There was people laying around. I think it was in Pickaway, where they had needles in their arm, just laying on the bathroom floor, and people would step over them. I said, well, why, like, you guys aren't scared to get in trouble or anything like that? This was a friend of mine. And he was like, they don't care.
What about at Ross a few months ago where all that fentanyl went through the heating ducts or through the ducts, and quite a few staff members and inmates got sick, ended up in the hospital? How did that happen? It couldn't have been inmates where it was coming through. It had to be staff.
How much was it?
I don't know, but it was quite a bit, enough to get people sick.
I thought they said it was enough to kill that whole wing or
you're
something.
Right. They also did it the day after in Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm. They did.
It might have been the same day too.
Yeah, they do. They flop around on the ground and everything. It's really a sad sight.
But, it's not really going to improve until they get rid of these officers and the people that's bringing the dope in. But as an inmate, you cannot really tell on an officer. You have to wait till you get out. You don't want the reputation of a snitch. Mm-hmm. And I still didn't tell on the people that I knew brought it in. But the state needs to do their job and find out who's bringing it in. They have cameras where they saw one guy up in Marion Correctional bring it in. I won't say his name. He was a former inmate. He was going in to teach a class. He had help from an officer. Well, he ended up running from the feds because he was charged and he was shot and killed in my area.
Steve said it got so bad with me. I had UFC fights in the laundry room and let them fight for money, and their family would send me money.
Well, see, that was part of the problem.
Definitely.
And I respect you, Steve, for coming out and being honest. But if you were never caught, would you still be bringing dope in today? Because we're losing inmates to the drug epidemic, and you can get the drugs out here. You can get the drugs in a enclosed area that's supposed to be protected.
So for those of you that may have joined late, Steven Bobo was actually supposed to be on here, and for some reason we can't get connected, but he was a CO. I'm not sure how many years he was a CO, but he got busted bringing drugs in, and then actually ended up serving time at the same prison that he was a CO at.
Which is very dangerous to send a correction officer to the same institution where he was at. The state had to do that part on purpose.
4 years, he said.
Right.
And then how much time did you get, Steve, for this?
And what year were you released? I think he did 2 years, got out on super shock or something.
Oh, okay.
I think.
So he would have been new law?
Yeah, he would have been new law. Under the old law, he would have gotten something like 10 to 25.
20 years, right.
We have people doing 25 years for marijuana.
22 months.
Right, so a little bit, 22 months. That is a little bit less than 2 years, I think.
Yeah. He was new law.
Right. So Stephen, what, put your comments in there. What way do you think that we could slow up the drug entrance to the prison system? What suggestions do you have without really telling on the staff member? There's got to be a way to stop bringing the drugs in. A full body scan is one thing, and that's what I think they should use. But everybody should have to go through it. But that's very costly, and we know that our governor is going to cut $25 million from the prison system, and our new director is known to save money as well.
Yeah, well, how could they stop people from bringing the drugs in? And do you think that they ever will be able to do that? To just stop it completely?
I personally don't think it could be stopped completely. You're always going to find a way for it to get in. We've had as high as deputy wardens bring it in before. I knew one that did, and he's a warden now, I believe.
Well, he said they were throwing it over the fence. Drug sniffing dogs, Debbie Gibney said.
But Steve, that's not the only way the drug's coming in. You know, it's coming in through the staff that walks through the doors as well. And I do know the drones or throwing it over the fence happens a lot.
He
But
said-
they
he
have
said
cameras
it's
out
not
there.
going to stop.
No, but they have also cameras on the perimeter fence. So if it's being thrown over, you have to be fairly close on, you know, to be able to throw it over the fence. So the cameras would pick it up.
Right.
Unless they came up down like they do when there's fights and the inmate says go check the cameras. They're not working then.
Unless the people that are watching the cameras are in on it too.
Right. And what appropriate sentence do you think should be implemented for staff bringing dope in the state prisons as well as the county jails? That would be an interesting one. They should be held accountable. You know, anybody that does something like that or sneak other stuff in that's illegal. Here's something to change the subject for a second, but at the Grafton Iron Farm about 10 years ago, they arrested a bunch of inmates and staff for a prostitution ring. That was at the camp.
He said 5 to 10 years.
I would agree. And
So
Steve, you
how
looked out.
how do you guys feel about what President Trump said about giving the death penalty to people that are distributing fentanyl, since that's the number one.
I'll start on
killer.
that. I'm opposed to the death penalty in all
I am
cases. I could kind of understand it, you know, on a victim's viewpoint, but that's not going to be a deterrent to selling fentanyl. And a lot of times the dope dealer doesn't even know there's fentanyl in the heroin.
London just added a third fence, electrified, saying no one can throw that far.
Yeah, well, there's always somebody that can. Well, that might. It depends how far apart the fences are.
Shannon Drew said corruption in law enforcement period needs to be overhauled. COs are a huge issue. I know a CO who has been one 20 years, and he's seen COs take in cell phones, have sex with inmates, bring in drugs, and many crazy things. Well, they just had that one guy here in Ohio that released all that stuff when he got out of Richland.
I didn't hear about that one.
You didn't?
I don't think I did.
Yeah, he had a cell phone and recorded everything.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I did hear about that.
And then got out where the COs were. They had sex tapes with the COs.
Wow. Yeah, but the COs are above the law, it seems like. You know, they should be treated no differently than inmates, and inmates should be treated with more respect.
I agree. No death penalty for that. The ninjas bring a lot in too.
Yeah, which he said ninjas. Another.
NIJAS.
Yeah, the same as Men in Black, isn't it, Stephen? They used to be called the Men in Black. Special trained forces, basically, for the prisons. Another way to just beat up inmates with stun guns, billy clubs, and break up their stuff in their cell and rip their sheets apart and everything else.
Shannon said Trump's comment was ridiculous. That's insanity. Plus, he said they just give fines to dealers. No way. They get hard time.
There was a guy that just got busted with 80 kilos of heroin got 6 months probation and 6 months in a treatment facility. Drug dealers don't need a treatment facility. They're not using this.
Right. Steve said at one time he thought he was above the law.
Well, quite a few people did. When I was out there getting in trouble, I thought I was above the law. I never thought I would get caught. But remember, our luck always runs out.
Mm-hmm.
We probably should have quite a few staff members on there. I did invite quite a few today, and they wouldn't watch it.
Wow.
And I think maybe guilty conscience,
They're watching incognito.
probably. I have a warrant on my page from Texas. You know, but
Is his wife the one that keeps trying to get into all the prison wife groups?
maybe just as probably spy.
Shannon said also she doesn't think that addicts really need to be in prison. We need to put more money into good rehabs for everyone, not just the rich.
Right.
I agree with that.
I agree with a point. How many times are you going to let an addict get in trouble before they get sentenced? Sooner or later, you don't have a choice because they're not willing to straighten up or clean up. And, you know, the average alcoholic, it takes 10 times to actually finally get it right.
Steve said, I have no problem talking about it. So now you've been out for how long, Steve? And now you actually fight for prisoners' rights. What made you decide to turn that around and help?
Yeah, I kind of wish we could have brought him on today.
Yeah, we tried several times. 2006.
Oh, that's been that long. Okay, well, you got out way before I did. Oh, I thought you were a newbie. Steve, what do you actually fight for? Because I've watched a few of your videos. What's your passion?
He said he's just tired of the BS.
I've been tired of that.
I think we all are. Any of us that live this
Right.
life.
And also, when you have a
Tired.
whole board full of women, you get tired of it too. Because you don't have a chance. You're outnumbered.
Y'all heard that. That's on the board, right?
Yeah. Well, today I said I was minus 1%.
Now he's really gonna get it.
Right.
He thinks he runs the organization.
Thinks or actually does is two different things.
And we have, we just did an interview with the paper here in Columbus, and that will be out in
The 21st.
21st, yeah, Thursday.
Right. Columbus Alive, which is part of Columbus Plain Dealer, and Legislative.
Columbus Dispatch.
Columbus Dispatch, I mean. But this week at our Legislative Aid, we have quite a few stations a couple stations that would be there, and one or two newspapers.
Mm-hmm. I hope that they print the picture where we were giving you the bunny ears.
Oh, that's not nice.
You had no idea what we were doing behind your back.
But they probably seen it, and he
He did take the pictures because I said, that's when I said, is this appropriate? And he said, absolutely. So I hope they print
See
that.
how I get picked on?
So Steven said, stop how the inmates are treated. Tired of how inmates are treated.
Yeah, how do you feel about the parole board, Stephen? I know you've heard a lot of complaints while you were in, I'm sure. That's another topic, though.
That was one of our biggest topics, actually.
Yeah, and we need to come back to that because our number one passion is changing laws. And then our second passion would be to assist these folks upon their release. And this needs to be a national movement on this.
Mm-hmm. It really does. And in order to get involved, he said he'll be back in Ohio March 22nd.
Good. The 22nd. I'll be available in the evening. I got a meeting during the day.
March 22nd?
Yeah. if Candace don't have a visit Wednesday, we have a meeting Wednesday. If not, I'm going to be solo with a senator that don't like me. So, but
Did you want to talk about our meeting that we had or no?
sure, I'll let you start on it.
We had a meeting, was it Thursday?
I don't remember now. Thursday or Wednesday, one of those days.
One day last week, we had a meeting with Shirley Smith, who came forward as a parole member. She actually left the parole board because she said she was tired of all the corruptness that was going on at the hearings, how the inmates were being treated. She was just tired of it. She said she knew she was part of the problem and that she is willing to help us any way that she can. We gave her our proposal. She said she's going to read over it, perhaps give some suggestions. We do have some things that we're putting into place, which we will be letting everyone know as soon as we get it all together, and what you can do to help us and help anyone. True reform, yes, that's it. Not just talk, is what Christy said. True reform, not just talk.
Right, and that's what we're working towards. And Candace is very good at speaking to the media, so she's going to be one of our spokespeople on Thursday, along with Beverly Seymour, who's the author of our proposal. I may do some, but I'm going to be attending some of the meetings while they handle that. So,
I always get thrown into this stuff. I don't know how this happens.
give my phone number out and tell people I'm single too, please. And just be rich.
Coming from the man who had 3 fiancés when he was locked up.
And I love them all. Don't forget that part.
And he loved them all the same. Yeah, so we will be introducing the prison reform or parole reform proposal on Thursday.
If you're from another state, feel free to join us. Just hop on the next flight.
Yeah.
No?
But one way that you can get involved if you are in a different state from us is network on Facebook. There's a lot of prison reform groups. Find somebody that's in your state. Network in here. Network on our page, the Voices of Reform. Feel free to post your questions and so forth. We like to keep this group just for basic prison reform and things like that. We don't if you post something that isn't related to that, we're not going to accept it.
Right.
So don't take offense
Right.
to it, but we just would like to.
Right. And if you're interested in starting a chapter of fair treatment in your state, you can. You'd have to get your own bylaws, and you'd have to follow our bylaws. I mean, you wouldn't get your own bylaws, but you'd have to get your own 501c3 and handle your state. But and if you're in Ohio, if you'd like to start a chapter in another part of Ohio, that's fine. But we'd have to go over with you and have a contract signed that you would follow our
bylaws,
stipulations
yeah.
and our guidelines and our purpose. And I know not every state has a parole board, but there's medical conditions. There's a reentry that needs to be done. That's in every state. Unfair treatment inside the prisons is in every state.
Yes. And laws change all the time, every day. Not every day, but people work towards changing the laws every day.
Right.
And just get involved. There are so many passionate people out there that are willing to help you get in the right direction, give you their advice, help you along the way. You just have to get in contact with them, network. That's how I met James.
And Candace has been on all my pages probably for a few years. So it is important, like she said, to network. Even if you don't live in Ohio, let us know what's happening in your state. What is working, what's not working. Do you have a parole board? How are the inmates being treated? How's medical? Food I don't really care about because that's the least of our concerns right now. Even if they are eating stuff that's not even meant for a dog. Well, I should say a pig. Because a dog
Well,
really-
and you know, that might be somebody's passion, and they can move forward with that, and then we see what they're doing and
right.
and jump on that. And one thing that was kind of shocking when we were talking to Shirley Smith was she didn't realize that some of the states had passed the laws for the juveniles to be released. And so she was interested in that, and it was kind of shocking to me that people don't know what's going on in the other states. So when you network and another state maybe is passing something that your state hasn't, then you're able to present it to your organization and your state
Right.
and move forward with it.
And we're finding out a lot of the bills that are being introduced and passed are basically meant for nonviolent offenders. And most of the people, if not all, that we work with are people with life sentences or close to it. That should have been paroled 30 years ago. The new law in Ohio, I'm not too equipped on it. I wasn't under it. But we get a lot of complaints from them, mostly on medical, or that they have no place to live. They're releasing them homeless.
Steve said, "Thanks for trying, guys. I guess they don't want me and Jimmy Cronenberger to do a show." Laugh out loud.
Yeah, well, don't worry. I'll make your group stronger one day and join you.
When you're here in March, we'll do a show.
Yeah. And Steve does have an interesting story. I will post a video I did of him last summer underneath this video. And I'll let you listen to it. Steven does have a testimony. And yes, he did something very serious and very wrong that hurts our people. But people can change. You know, and Stephen right now has the opportunity of helping people if he chooses to.
He said, "Yes, please." So, if anybody has any more questions, feel free to ask them now before we go. And before we wrap this up, we'll just go back over our upcoming events, which is obviously Thursday is Legislative Day, where we're going to introduce our proposal for parole reform. We will be meeting at 12:30 at the State House in the coffee shop in the back to the right. This is going to be one of the biggest days, I think, for our organization.
The most important one, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
So, and I'll be one of the lead speakers. Lord help us. And then April 26th, a protest in Cleveland, 11 a.m. at the Justice Center. May 17th is going to be a nationwide protest. Here in Columbus, we will be doing it at 11 a.m. at the State House.
Yeah, if I may add too, we're gonna put some of the pro board members on signs that we want dismissed. And please, if you're from other states, please organize it in your state at 11 o'clock at your state house or a central location.
Yes.
And let's share videos.
Yes, share videos, go live on Facebook so we can see them all.
We'll bring you live on ours.
Yes, and that is, again, May 17th. We will be doing ours at 11 a.m. And then August 3rd is our conference, Transforming Lives for Reentry. And we don't have the itinerary yet for that. We just have the date and the place.
Right.
So, again, our organization is Fair Treatment, Reform, and Reentry. It is a nonprofit organization. We don't charge for our services. We are not legal professionals. We can't give you legal advice or help. Our organization is not meant to get people out or try your case or anything like that. We do offer resources, advocating, things like that. Reentry.
changing laws.
Yeah, we work on changing laws. But I think a lot of people get confused what we do. So we don't charge for our services. However, we do accept donations because it does cost money to pay back and forth between us and the inmates. Phone calls, obviously they have to pay for the phone calls, but any phone calls that we would make on their behalf for us to get to and from the protests, just like the copies we need made
just
for
like,
legislative day.
Candace went with us to Florida. I mean, not Florida,
I
Cleveland,
wish.
and drove to Cleveland. That was about 2.5 drive because of the location. So it was around a 5-hour drive totally during the day. You know, and it's got to be tiresome. But there's wear and tear on the vehicles. I did post a fundraiser on this page earlier today. We're up to $90 on that page. I challenge those that are able to donate $5. I will as well on the first when I get paid. So, not that I'm cheap, but
I'm donating my time.
yeah, donating your time is more valuable sometimes. We're going to need people to send letters, emails, and calls after Legislative Day, and we need to flood the State House.
Yes, and we also have a parole committee here in Ohio. If anyone is interested in helping us with writing the letters, making the phone calls, getting involved, just let James or I know, and we can add you to that chat. But we do ask that you are actively helping with that.
Right.
Anything else?
No, I think this was actually a good show. At first, I wasn't sure if any of us really knew what we were talking about somewhat. I understand some of the problems with the drugs, but it's gotten worse. And Candace knows from the outside, you know, what's happening. And we know it's bad and it's getting worse. And if people have any solutions on what the system needs to do to change on that, please keep posting. You don't have to stop posting once you're off from the video.
Right. Fair Treatment Reform and Reentry said, and flood the governor.
Yes, the governor, we're asking for the termination for those that are in Ohio, Cynthia Mauser, who's the executive assistant of Parole and Community Sanctions, and she's still over the whole parole board. Then the new parole board chair needs to get released. Mr. Houck, who is very racial in intent and the way he talks to inmates. And Ellen Venters is probably one of those most vicious. In Ohio, they have 2 victims, parole board members, and nobody on behalf of the inmates. So I would like to see an advocate for the inmate as well and drop one of the victims' ones. Let's be fair.
Well, we would just like to replace the whole parole board members
Right.
to something more transparent and
Fair.
fair.
It's a $100,000 paying job, so
So if you feel like you can do the job, write to the ODRC.
yeah, Director Smith, who I have not had a chance to meet yet. Myself, Candace, and Terry will meet her eventually.
I love how you just throw me in this
Yeah.
stuff.
Well, board members will. That may be our last meeting because the pro board won't meet with us now. I think they're kind of upset.
Well, yeah.
But
So if anybody has any questions, you can inbox us. Steve said you can inbox him as well. If you would like to get involved in our organization, feel free to inbox us and let us know. And if you would like to see us talk about any certain topic or have any questions that you would like answered anonymously, contact us. We're always up for suggestions for the show, topics, anything like that. We are putting together our March shows right now, so we will have that out soon. Right. And we just want to say thank you to everyone that's been supporting us. And joining us and interacting.
What's next week?
Thanks.
Okay, before she says that, also, if you live in Ohio, if your organization would like one of us to speak, please inbox us. We could share a little bit about our organization as well.
So next week is education.
Oh, I should have remembered. I got all my education through the prison system.
So did my husband.
So that's probably why I'm not quite as smart.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next Sunday at 6 p.m. for education in the prison system.